was probably 13 or 14 years old when I heard about the plane crash. And one of the old timers from around here told me how to get to it. So when I was 15, 1969, I was up, I think I might have been hunting. I was up there and I went across the mountain, across those ridges, and I found it. The trees were all cut off from where it came in and burnt, and there was debris everywhere. It was kind of eerie. Anyway, I thought about it for years, off and on, wondering, because nobody knew much about it, it didn't seem like, that I knew anyway. I never knew what happened, who it was, how many people. I thought about that over the years, off and on, and I never went back. So in 2015, I got a phone call. A retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel that worked for the Civil Air Patrol in Great Falls called me. His name was Joe Macklin, and he said he had called the Park County Sheriff's Department wanting to know about this airplane crash, this bomber crash in 1962 on Emigrant Peak, and they gave him my phone number because they're all young, they didn't know anything about it.
I'm Joe Macklin, a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and pilot. Had the opportunity to fly over the crash site as well in a Piper Warrior, a low-wing single-engine aircraft, and so I was able to visit it physically, trekking up the mountain, and I was able to fly over it. What a privilege, what an honor, and I was blown away. The crash site, it's as if the pieces are intact. It's as if it happened this year. I mean, there's no rust. The damage is surreal, and you just have this knowledge that men who were defending the United States almost 60 years earlier, younger than we are, they were in their 20s, all of them, and here they crash. Their final resting place sits on top of that, 3/4 of the way up Emigrant Mountain.
And it's such rugged country because his interest was to use it for a training mission, training young Civil Air Patrol people. So he said, I don't think we're going to use it. But it got me thinking about the crash again. And I think it was the next morning I texted him and I told him I'm going to go up there. So I hiked up there again. Didn't find it, so I had to wait another couple of days, and I went back again and found it. And I thought, well, there should be a plaque here or something to honor these guys. I mean, everybody's forgotten about it. What do people think when they stumble on this? You know, they have no idea that. And by that time, I knew it was 4 Air Force guys, and I just thought that there should be a plaque there. So I didn't think it would be any problem at all to do it. So anyway, I went to the Forest Service and told them what I wanted to do, and they said, you can't do it. They said, we don't allow that on public land, memorials. But to their credit, they said, we can do something on a roadside or a trailhead, but it'll take several years. And if the Forest Service tells you something's going to take several years, it's going to take a long time. So I thought about it for a while, and I thought, well, why not at our cemetery? It's at the base of Emigrant Peak. It's off the road. So I met with the cemetery board, and I told them what we wanted to do, and they were like excited about it. They said, that's great. So the next day we met and picked out this site right here. And just a few days later, we were pouring concrete to build this gazebo. When the cemetery board said we could do it, I called my cousin, who's a genealogist and a veteran. And I told him what was in the works, and I said, can you find these people? And he said, I'll try. And it took him a while. It took him a couple months. And he called me and he said, I found them. And I said, do we have their blessing? And he said, yes, and they're coming. So anyway, we had already started building this, so thankfully we got their blessing. But so the spring of 2016, the Civil Air Patrol retired Lieutenant Colonel from the Air Force, Joe Macklin, he called me and he said, I want to come and stay in one of your cabins with 5 of my classmates.
And I made a trek up with Brian to the site, and I took several classmates of mine from high school. And so it was our 40th high school reunion. And what a blast we had. Had the opportunity to fly over the crash site as well in a Piper Warrior, a low-wing single-engine aircraft. So I was able to visit it physically, trekking up the mountain, and I was able to fly over it. What a privilege, what an honor. And I was blown away. The crash site, it's as if the pieces are intact. It's as if it happened this year. I mean, there's no rust. The damage is surreal, and you just have this knowledge that men who were defending the United States almost 60 years earlier, younger than we are, they were in their 20s, all of them, and here they crash. Their final resting place sits on top of that 3/4 of the way up Emigrant Mountain at 8,500 feet MSL above sea level. And it was just amazing. And when I hiked up there with Brian as our lead and 4 of my classmates from high school, we were able to honor the air crew. Fido15 is their call sign. And we were able to honor them and have a very private, intimate moment with them.
When we were up there, Colonel Medeiros gave a speech about the Cold War, and he watched the Berlin Wall come down, and he gave a really nice history lesson for us. And then Joe Macklin, he talked about these guys. So it was pretty neat. They cracked open a bottle of whiskey and did a toast, and they wept, which tells you what a brotherhood that is, you know. So I told Joe, I says, we're going to have this ceremony here the 23rd of July, and you need to come and share what you did on the mountain. So that was pretty neat. The reason we did it on the 23rd is because I got a phone call one day, and a gentleman, he said, my name is Brian Broden. And he said, I was 4 months old when my dad crashed on the peak. He said, when are you going to do this ceremony? And I said, when do you want us to? He said, the 23rd of July, the anniversary. So we did that ceremony here the 23rd of July 2016. About 25 family members came from all over the U.S., Oklahoma, Texas, Virginia, California. 3 of the 4 widows were here. 4 of the 5 children left behind were here. Siblings, nieces and nephews, grandkids, and a couple hundred other people. There were people at the ceremony that had been on the search and recovery crew for the Forest Service, old-timers. They got to meet family members. One of the old-timers that worked for the Forest Service was, he found a ring at the crash site, and I'm pretty sure he said it was on a finger. And he put it in his pocket, tied a string to it, because he didn't want to lose it. And that ring got returned to the family, and he got to meet that family in 2016, which was pretty neat. And Senator Deans came and spoke, and the governor wrote a letter. Senator Tester sent a representative. Ryan Zinke sent a representative. There were some county commissioners and sheriff department, firefighters and veterans. All told, there was probably close to 250 people altogether. It was really nice ceremony. But after the ceremony, I had asked the auxiliary ladies from the VFW if they could just make some snacks, and we would have a little reception at the community hall. So we get over there, and it's like a 5-course meal. And Senator Deans came to the reception, and he talked to a lot of those family members, grandkids and widows and siblings, and I bet he spent an hour at the reception, him and his wife. And after that, when he was getting ready to leave, because he knew that I always wanted to put something on the mountain, he came up to me and he said, we're going to get this done for these people. And he went to work on getting that legislation done, and he stuck with it.
U.S. Senator Steve Deans here. And after years of work, I was so proud to see my bipartisan bill to designate B-47 Ridge in Montana signed into law in 2020. The brave men who tragically died in the B-47 bomber crash have now the memorial and the recognition their families and the local community has long fought for. In fact, just last summer, I was honored to join their families to unveil the memorial plaque that would be placed at the site to ensure the stories of these 4 airmen will be remembered forever. Designating the B-47 Ridge will ensure the airmen's legacy of service and sacrifice, and their story will be told for many generations to come.
And it took a while. It took 5 years, 5 or 6 years, but he got it done, and Greg Gianforte was our representative. He introduced a companion bill in the House. My granddaughter worked for Gianforte in D.C. as an intern, so they let her deliver the bill to the House. So I thought that was pretty special.
This is the location that in 1962, an Air Force B-47 crashed. We lost the lives of 4 airmen at that time. Some of the fuselage you can see still scattered across the hillside here. We're here to honor those airmen. I was very pleased when I was in Congress to introduce the bill designating this ridge. It was a bipartisan effort to honor these people. And being up here, I just think about the sacrifices so many have made for our country. And that is certainly true right here.
I testified in front of a subcommittee in the House of Representatives supporting the bill. The family members, the county commissioners, people from all over this community wrote letters to DC supporting the legislation, and passed the Senate, passed the House, and the President signed it into law. So then we started planning for another event to dedicate the passing of the B-47 Ridge Designation Act, which allows for this plaque to go on the ridge where the crash site is, where those guys are interred, actually, and to name the ridge forever B-47 Ridge, which is pretty cool.
This is Senator John Tester, and thank you for allowing me to share a few words with you today. 60 years ago, we lost 4 United States Air Force pilots in a tragic accident just outside Emigrant, Montana. Captain Bill Falconer, Lieutenant Fred Hicksonbaugh, Lieutenant David Sutton, and Lieutenant Lloyd Sawyers were young men filled with promise and potential, all of whom paid the ultimate price serving our country, leaving families behind and futures of their own. For far too long, the lives and stories of these brave airmen were pushed aside, but because of the tireless work of the local community, their legacies will live on. I was proud to introduce bipartisan legislation in 2018 to make this memorial possible, and I'm even prouder that we got it signed into law in 2020. This memorial is a testament to the hard work of Montanans, but even more importantly, it ensures that our fighting men and women will never be forgotten. As chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, I'll continue fighting tooth and nail to ensure that as a country we do right by our veterans and the legacies they leave behind.
So this time, almost 40 family members came, and this is 59 years later. That speaks volumes for Gold Star families. And so we had a wonderful time. We took a hike to the crash site the morning of the 24th of July. We left the trailhead at 6 with 36 people, mostly family members. And on that day, a helicopter, Mark Taylor Rocky Mountain Rotors, was kind enough to long line our cement bags and 15 gallons of water to the crash site so we could prepare a slab to put this monument on. And also the day that he took the concrete up for us, he came back to the cemetery here and he picked up older family members, and he made 5 trips with older family members, one of the widows and lots of siblings, and did a flyby of the crash site. And about 2 weeks later, Kirk and myself and my son and my goats, Nip and Tuck, they carried the form boards, our tools, some wire, and we hiked to the crash site, dug out a spot for the pad to put the monument on, and poured the cement. So now when he has a job in the valley here, he's going to come back and we're going to take this to the crash site and mount it on the cement slab that we poured, and it'll be facing east, which is tradition for virtually every cemetery in the United States. And then the whole project will be complete.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Work of art. Beautiful.
Yep.
My name is Diane Lemadou, my son Luke, my daughter Anna. And it was my uncle, Frederick Hicksonbaugh. My mother talks about how ornery he was, and he liked to play a lot of tricks on her, and how he loved what he was doing, flying the planes. And he didn't get to come home very often, but when they did, they heard a lot of stories about what he was doing and how he enjoyed what he was doing. We're so grateful for Brian, the years and the time and the effort that he has put into making this happen. Brian has helped heal that. My mother and my aunt and my uncle, they're not able to be here. So we're here in their place. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. 4 people's lives were lost instantly, and they rest here still. So it's a very sacred place.
Well, it's great to be back here on B-47 Ridge for a second time through the work of Brian Wells and the local funeral home and a lot of volunteers. There's now an appropriate memorial up here, and I just want to say it is awesome that given the sacrifice that occurred here on this ridge, that now we have a permanent memorial to honor the 4 airmen that gave their life on July 23rd, 1962, just over 60 years ago. So it's appropriate that we honor these airmen in this way.
It's a good thing. Proud of Montana. Montana treasures veterans, and the whole Montana delegation got behind this, which is not surprising for Montana. The whole community got behind this, which is how we are here. So it's about 7 years in the making. Probably the best part of the whole thing. Forever friends. So pretty cool.